Hey guys, welcome back to the Nets, the home of unbiased views. We have had quite an action-packed weekend, and that is what we discuss on this channel. We talk football, we talk Arsenal, international trophies, and sometimes cricket. But since this weekend was where two different continental champions were announced, we will be talking primarily about football. With me is Elroy. But before we go anywhere, if you have watched us before, please do hit the like button. If you like the content, please do subscribe. Let us know how we do, good, bad. Both feedback is welcome. And with me is Elroy. Hey, Elroy, welcome back.
Hey, Kev. A weekend full of finals and a month filled with football finally comes to an end. And now we go back to our, club football in a month's time or so.
Absolutely. And when we think about it, both the games were absolutely end to end. Copa America, I know different odd timings too for people in India, and it wasn't really telecast all that
Yeah.
well. But it was probably one of Messi's worst games that I have seen him play.
Uh,
But it was just amazing that that goal from Angel Di Maria was what set it
yeah.
up, and it was a brilliant game, end to end, and Brazilians in the end were diving and playing really ugly football, which was sad to see. But justice was done. Messi finally, after 28
Yeah.
years, was able to end Argentina's misery.
Yeah. I think, yes, first of all, like we spoke on the preview pod, discussion of us where we spoke about how Messi needed this. And, we spoke about how important it was for him to win it. And I mean, not just important, a lot of people needed to shut up after, because they used to keep mentioning that Messi doesn't have an international trophy and used to say that he's not at that level, which was wrong because Messi is Messi and he had nothing to prove, but he's finally won an international trophy, and you could see based on the celebrations, the pictures, what it meant to him. Like you were genuinely happy for the guy, with him winning this. And yes, one point that you mentioned that he didn't have a good final. Now, I honestly speaking, I didn't watch the match because it was like at 5:30 a.m. in India, so I couldn't watch it that way, and I had to stay up. The main part was to watch the Euros. But then, there is this concept like the best when it comes to football. uh, your best player will definitely be taken. The opposition is going to mark your best player or set up the entire tactic very specific to a game changer like Messi. So it's very obvious that they would have gone ahead to mark him, to frustrate him. That was always going to happen. It happens in every final. The best player, you very rarely see that your best player is going to be the one who decides everything in a final. No doubt sometimes they do, like Oba in the FA Cup last year. It does happen, but sometimes it's just that oppositions are going to go all out to mark your, to negate your best player. And when that happens, it opens the door for another player to shine, another player to win it in in a final. And that is what probably happened. And it happens in a lot of finals. And yeah, so there were a lot of shouts saying that Messi didn't play well. Yeah, maybe he didn't play well, but he took Argentina to the finals in the first place. And for all that he has done, hats off to him.
Absolutely. And everything that he has done, I mean, a player of his stature, his caliber, Messi, he doesn't have anything else to prove. And this is something just helps him satisfy his own needs that, yes, I put Argentina up there and I was able to get a trophy for Argentina. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
Kudos to him. And I was tweeting about that, oh, so poor for him. He doesn't know where his next paycheck is coming from. And,
Yeah.
but today he
Yeah.
sleeps peacefully. A free agent
Yeah.
Messi will.
Yeah.
But moving on from Oba and Wembley to a different game in Wembley yesterday.
Yeah.
Amazing atmosphere, all England
Yeah.
atmosphere. And I think that first goal might have just let the crowd in. And I think that might
Yeah.
have added more pressure on England. What do you have to say about that?
To be honest, as we ourselves discussed it, that it would be a very tactical and close fought game. It was close fought in the end, but I don't think any of us thought that England would be the team that was scoring in the second minute. Like that completely changed the dynamics of the game. Nobody saw that because you would think that Italy would be the team that would play smart, try to score first and maybe defend, because that is what the traditional Italian teams are used to doing. But it was a different game where Italy had to chase the game. And it again, it was a very tactical battle at the end. Like, I don't think there were like very, very good chances also created, but there were decent chances created. The game was, it was a very good game overall. A game which you couldn't predict what is going to happen. It was very intense. And yeah, Italy finally getting the equalizer. At one point of time, you thought that they would get a winner as well, because England just went on the back foot, or England were just that equalizer obviously took away their confidence as well. But then when it somehow remained 1-1, and come the extra time, it was a very again, it felt as though both the teams started to play a bit safe. Nobody wanted to make that mistake to and lose the game out on during extra time. So rather than going for the kill, both the teams were playing a very safe game. And yeah, it went to the shootout, and shootout is, it's a lot of luck involved, and it's a lot of on the spot situation. And yeah, Italy did win, but Italy deserved winners right from the start. They've been good consistently throughout the competition. And as I said last time as well, they are not a traditional Italian team. They have added some new aspects to the game under Roberto Mancini, and you could see all of that throughout the tournament, and deserved winners for me.
So, do you think that with the tactical battle, even the goal in the second minute was not something that Southgate had planned for, and maybe that was what put them in that defensive mindset that no, let's just sit back and try to defend this lead all this while, and that just
Uh,
changed England's
yeah,
game plan altogether, letting Italy on the ball a
yeah,
lot more than they should have.
that's actually quite a valid scenario. I mean, it's highly possible that that happened, because look, at one point of time, it's not that England would have wanted to go all out attack, but at the same time they would be looking to attack and get them on the break. When you score so early, it's just that you get that mindset that you want to defend this lead way from it's right from the start. So it's like, you go into that slight defensive mindset on way more earlier than what they would have probably expected. And when you go into that complete defensive setup, you're bound to, you have to track back a lot. You have to like really, really defend a lot. And that's what England did. And that can have a physical impact as well, right? Because when you're like, if you're forwards, everyone has to track back to defend. You're bound to have certain tired legs, which will cause the issue. And seems like that did turn out to be a problem for England at the end.
Speaking tactically again, I was pretty impressed with the way Southgate was playing Kane uh, Tottenham plays Son. He was
Yeah.
driving them from the center, and it was probably his pass, the first initial pass where he crossed from the center all the way to the right, and Saka, not Saka, but Trippier came in and he crossed that ball.
Yeah.
It was something a different kind of Kane. But then I feel that after they had that initial goal, they could have gone back to Kane again up front, because after that Kane was
Yeah.
pretty much absent, and he didn't show up in the
Exactly.
rest of the game.
So, this was one of my criticism for regarding Kane, right from, you can say, okay, initial part of the tournament, that was a different scene maybe. Even like I was talking to a friend saying that even against Germany, he had a minimal impact. But once England scored that first goal and England had that confidence and England were kind of getting the better out of Germany, it was that one Grealish cross that Harry Kane scored. Similarly, they played against, okay, I think when they played against Ukraine, yeah, fine. There he scored a couple of goals, whatever. That was good there. The match against Denmark, again, yes, he had an important role in the first goal where he put that ball to Saka. But overall, very quiet game. And all he did was he scored the penalty at the end, and that puts the limelight on him. My point was that if you actually go to see performance-wise, Harry Kane has not been the savior that England have looked at. Raheem Sterling did a lot more, I would say, but I'm not taking away anything from Kane. It's just that when you're that caliber of a player for your country, everybody is going to. He was, especially in the final, for me, he was very disappointing. Yes, he scored the penalty at the end, but his impact on the game was minimal. And you can see the difference wherein in Italy, uh, Immobile was not doing a lot. His contribution was not a lot, and they took him off. And they put Insigne in the middle for a while, and they brought Berardi, and that was actually causing some amount of problem. It became a bit more functional attack. And you can see that like England didn't have it in them to take off Kane. I mean, I'm not saying would that have been the right move or wrong move. I mean, that who knows. But England, my problem with England was that even Mason Mount, very, very quiet game. And that's it. He ended up surviving the game for even more than the extra time. Like, I know that people say that maybe tactically it causes an imbalance when you get Grealish, but Grealish is that one kind of a player who has that random factor in him. You know, the way he carries the ball, the way he'll dribble, the way he'll shoot, he causes some kind of confusion, some kind of, he is a proper threat to any defense. And he was brought in way too late, in my opinion. Like, yes, I agree not getting Sancho and Rashford, because Rashford is good in a team which is going to play a high line maybe, and you play Rashford. But yeah, Italy, maybe that was not the best one. But Grealish should have been brought in way more earlier, which delaying that for I don't know what reason, and keeping Mount on, who didn't have any impact. So a lot of things issues were there from England side.
So I am going to for once back Kane here and be a devil's advocate and say that okay, Kane did not have the best of games, but credit
Yeah.
to Bonucci and Chiellini for
Oh
making him
yes.
have that game. I mean, they are
Yes.
absolute monsters, and having those two in the back is like having one extra man. They
Yes.
just the
True.
way they talk to each other or just the communication that they have on the field, it's just amazing. I have not seen a center back pair currently that is playing football that can be as effective as those two.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, because I was very, very impressed with the way the two guys were, and you know, right from the like they were good throughout the tournament. They and you can see that they have been playing together for a long time at Juventus, except for one season where Bonucci had gone to AC Milan. But overall, everything they are the kind of center backs you would always want in your team. See, a lot of teams have one good center back. Like say when Ramos was at Real Madrid, or Ramos and Varane, both were very good center back, but Ramos would be looked as the most superior kind of a player, and now he's not there. Liverpool have Van Dijk, again one standout center back. Everybody, but here they have two standout center back, and irrespective of age, they were fast, they were smart. I mean, even that fall from Chiellini to on Saka, where Saka beat Chiellini, and Chiellini knew that if Saka goes, he's not going to win a race against Saka for sure. You know, Saka was through on that right wing. That's what experience does. He just pulls Saka's shirt off and gets a yellow card. He's obviously not going to get a red for that because he was not clean through on goal. But that is the way it's not just about quality defending, it's about smart defending as well. Showed what the experience was. They were good at defending their set pieces. They were really, really solid, absolutely solid, and hats off to them. Like I didn't tweet about it, to be honest, but I just wanted to say it because I was a bit upset with the full Saka thing. But massive, massive center back pairing. Like they really dominated that defense, Italian defense.
And it just tells you that in the long run, it's not just the pace that makes a difference for a defender. It's just the positional awareness, just the fact that you have a partner who is so complimenting you in everything that you do. And
True.
you're correct, absolutely spot on that, taking tactical fouls and doing them right is so important in any game. He pulled
Exactly.
Saka, reset the game, everybody got back, and boom, it was back to normal again. Who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
Saka could have scored that game and that particular thing, and it would have been a different story altogether.
True.
But
Exactly. Yeah. And even overall,
and
yeah,
then
the way they were defending man on one-on-ones, the way they were clearing, the way they were tackling, it was just really, really good defending. And a lot of people say that okay, the Italians are boring defensive team, but it was not that way. Italy were attacking quite a bit last night, and so it was a game which Italy had a very overall good game. They were attacking well, creating good chances. At the same time, when any England threat was present, they were managing that. Like, and that's why I say they definitely deserve to win this.
I'm absolutely with you there. They did deserve to win it. And yesterday, if you look at it, the better team won. Tons of abuse on Twitter on Saka and pretty much everybody else. I care more about Saka. He's Arsenal,
Yeah,
but it was just sad. It was sad, but again, emotions come out, and people should put those things in check
true.
when you're abusing somebody. I mean, yeah, you can always criticize somebody for the way they play,
Yeah,
but abusing them is a little bit going overhand. um, I hope everybody calms down and players go back to their respective clubs. And speaking
Yeah.
of that, now we have the transfer market would technically be open today. That okay, everything is
Yeah.
open now. Uh,
Yeah.
Arsenal sound pretty confident with Ben White, the Ben White
Yeah.
situation.
True.
So you still
That.
think Ben White is coming home?
Yes, I think it will be done. And I mean, this is purely based on what I've been reading. And a person like me who I'll probably confidently say it's going to happen, and next thing you know, it's not going to happen. But yeah, I think we will get in this week itself. We'll get more rumors about it. It had gone quiet for a while, and it was mentioned by a lot of reporters, lot of accounts that it would go quiet till England are done with their Euro campaign, because and there was a journalist who has mentioned that Southgate didn't want any transfer deals and rumors to take place during the Euro campaign, so that was completely cut off. Yes, Jadon Sancho's transfer did take place, but that was apparently far down the line because that was going on for a long time, and they were very very deep into completing it. So for any other transfer, this is where the news is going to start. So you're going to start to get transfer rumors like maybe we'll start to hear more about Grealish to City, or maybe Kane to City, or any other transfer. So Ben White, I feel end of this week maybe we will start to get more news. And overall, I think Arsenal's the news in terms of our movement in the market will start now. We were probably just waiting for the Euros to close, or maybe background work is being done. We don't know that, but I think from now onwards we'll start to slowly hear of one player getting linked and deals getting done.
Yeah, background work we already had. It's gaining too much traction. The Ruben Neves to Arsenal transfer, which pretty much firms it up. The Xhaka is leaving, and I am keeping my fingers crossed that happens. He featured in Euros team of the tournament,
The team of the year, yeah,
and I wish we get more money from them. But
yeah,
the rumor was in the back that Arsenal had rejected Roma's first bid, and then there was
yeah.
Barcelona who wanted to come in for Xhaka.
I'm not sure about the Barcelona part, but yeah, apparently Roma's first bid is some say 15 million, some say 13 million, which is very low. For me, it is like, see, you're buying a player of Xhaka's caliber, it has to be minimum 20. I don't think we are going to get more than 20, but it has to be settled for 20 overall, is what I feel. Now, coming to Xhaka, a lot of people are still divided about his opinion. I know that some people will say like he needs to go. Some people will say that why are we selling him? If keeping us everything aside, if you look at it in the most practical way, he has 2 years left on his deal, and I don't think he's going to sign a new contract, or neither are we looking to offer him. We as a club seem okay to let him go, and he is more than happy to leave as well right now. We as a club, as I've always said, have always sold poorly. We've sold a player late. You keep him another season, and then next thing you know, he has 1 year left and his value is way lower, or he can stay another year and go for free. This 2 year deal, selling him when 2 years are left is the ideal time. And it is something we need to move away from him, in my opinion. We need something different, that's for sure. Look, he's a very good player, a good leader in the dressing room. The youngsters definitely like him, and he does offer a lot. And especially under Arteta, he has been like the anchor in the midfield in terms of attack wise, at least. But we need to, if we are building into a different setup, or it's time to move on. He's what, 27, 28. He's not getting any younger, and this is his value is going to be at its peak. So if we need any money, we can get money from him. And he, as I said, his stocks are at an all-time high after having a very successful Euro tournament. We have to do this. We have to sell him, is my point. And move on from there. We cannot sit with certain sentiments anymore, is what I feel, because we
I
finished
have
eighth at the end of the day.
I my views on this will be absolutely biased, so I'm just going to skip over those. I have never liked
Yeah.
him. So,
Yeah, I
but
know.
there was a rumor. There was a rumor going around that Arsenal might swap. The Barcelona had approached Arsenal for a Xhaka Coutinho swap, which again, if it happens, will be really good. I would take that happily. Coutinho and Xhaka. Yeah, let's do
Oh.
it. Anybody for Xhaka. I was willing to give him for a bag of donuts, but Coutinho for Xhaka will be good for me. The other one that it was again believed that Lokonga rumors that he has already completed his medical and the
Yeah.
announcement is imminent any minute. So that's
Yeah.
also a smart buy, really smart buy. Back to the goalkeeper situation. Leno refuses to sign a new extension. Uh, and Arsenal in the market for Onana, but Onana seems to be heading elsewhere. So,
Yeah.
any other goalkeeper that you think stands out?
To be honest, once the Onana links came up, I was very, very excited because he's a goalkeeper that really excited me. And I was see, I have nothing against Leno. If Leno is the our keeper, fair enough. Like I'm more than okay with it. But if we are getting a chance to upgrade in that department, sorry, if we are getting a chance to upgrade in that department, then so be it. Like that I want that. And Onana is that kind of a keeper. He's a good shot stopper. He's commands his box well, I guess. But his move feet, the way he plays with the ball at his on his feet, like his passing, his distribution, or he acts like an extra player while building out from the back, which is vital. It's really, really important to have such modern day keepers. It's like I have kept on harping about how Ederson is like a cheat code for Man City. With his passing and his distribution, he is a big time cheat code for City. City get another option altogether. That is what Onana would have provided us. But I don't know
I
what it is, whether it is the fact that he won't be available for a couple of months, or that he's missing out on he'll miss out during the AFCON, or we cannot get rid of Leno. I don't know what it is, but looks like we are not pursuing it anymore. And trust me, this is one transfer I'm really, really upset about, that it's not happening. Because apart from Onana, I don't see any keeper available right now. Because see, look at it this way. My point with getting Onana was, and considering we don't sell Leno, let them both compete for the number one spot this season. By next season, you know for sure that you can get rid of Leno maybe, and then Onana directly takes the first spot. But right now, what happens? Like, how do Arsenal go ahead with this? Do we buy a keeper who will specifically be a number two keeper, and Leno will be number one? Which again takes you to the next point, that next season, say Leno leaves, we are back again searching for a number one goalkeeper, which is pretty weird considering that in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, it would be like in the last 5 or 4 windows, including January windows, we would be after keepers, which shows that the club's goalkeeping planning has been pretty poor. Or do we go for a really good goalkeeper who'll challenge Leno straight away and we phase out Leno? Or does Leno leave and we buy a, like, there are too many questions to be answered right now with regards to the goalkeeper. And the biggest question is, there are no really, really good goalkeepers available out there. Most of them are happy at their clubs. So to get someone, like, a lot of people wanted Donnarumma, but remember Donnarumma's agent was Raiola. He would come with a hefty signing on fee, hefty wage bill. And obviously, a player like Donnarumma would want Champions League football, which we cannot afford right now. So for me, the goalkeeping situation is something that I would be a bit worried about.
Also, the other rumors were Runnerson is on his way out to Turkey.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
also something that was in the market and good for him. I mean, we
yeah,
got him for 2 million. If we sell him for 2 million, good enough. Uh, he uh, he was pretty average or less than average when it comes to that. The other keeper that we had, and I keep forgetting his name, but he has stood up pretty well when we have called him. It's not completely, he's not as bad as he's not as good as Martinez, that's for sure, but he isn't really as bad as well. So I wouldn't mind selling Leno at this time. If Leno doesn't want an extension, let's get rid of
yeah,
him right now and get
yeah.
someone concrete.
Exactly my point. If Leno is not selling, again, it's again the concept of 2 years, similar to what Xhaka is under. 2 years left on your deal, let him go, because you wait another year, his value decreases, and then we don't get what we could have gotten for him. If we are getting a good value, let him go. But for me, it's just that we could have got Onana. He's the kind of a player that you'll walk into, like, be a first team goalkeeper. But right now, my only concern is, if it's not Onana and Leno leaves, who do we replace him with? And the issue is that right now there are no clubs, there's no rumor whatsoever of anybody making a move for Leno. So that is another thing that concerns me a bit. So probably he will stay another year, because doesn't seem to have any suitors right now. But things could change in the transfer window, and let's see how that turns out to be.
Sounds good. And on that note, just a sad reminder, Willian is still an Arsenal player and there are 717 days for him to run his contract. No one is coming for him, but I guess that's all we have for today. Yep, I keep a count of that on my phone.
No,
717
I
days to
mean,
go.
To be honest, like, see, if I would definitely prefer we let go of Willian. If we let go of Willian, we can promote someone from the, maybe. I mean, players get chances like Martinelli, Balogun. If they are going to get more chance, like, I'm more than happy. But if he's here, I really, really, my first preference would obviously be that Willian leaves, no doubt about it. But if in case if he still continues to be at Arsenal, I really, really hope that he can show something from his Chelsea days rather than the way he's been last season. Because it is going to be painful to watch a player the way he played last season. And if he continues to play like that this season, it's just going to be extremely, extremely painful. And it was going to be toxic. The fans are going to be back in the stadium as well. It is going to be really, really messed up. So, in case if by chance he's still at the club, I really hope he somehow, you know, pulls his socks up and gets back and plays well, because at the end of the day he is an Arsenal player and you want Arsenal to do their best, and I just hope he
Absolutely.
can, yeah, he
And
can do something.
one quick rumor that I read before before coming online was Bellerin
Oh
has
yes.
requested he goes to Inter, and
Yeah.
Inter had requested that they would have a loan with an obligation to buy in the end, and Arsenal
Yeah.
wants to just sell him outright because he
Yeah.
just has a year left on his contract. So whatever we get of him is loan with an
Yeah.
obligation doesn't seem right. So yeah, that was what was being said in the market. I don't really know how true those rumors are.
Yeah. No, so I think Bellerin is leaving for sure. It's like almost 90% I feel that he will be out of the club this summer. Will we get a right back? That I don't know. Like we discussed the other day that we have too many options right now and we would have to get rid of players. But Bellerin is leaving for sure. Now, the problem for me is that we are not getting fees for anyone. Like we have a lot of these loans with obligations to buy. Like we've happened with Mavropanos, it's happened with Guendouzi, and looks like it might happen with Bellerin. Now, this need not be a bad sign, because a lot of people say like, what we can't you, sell our players, which is, yeah, it does put us in a bad light. But if at all these deals go through, we are getting money next season, so it's not like we are not getting any money for sure. So that way, I'm okay with it, as long as we are guaranteed to get a good amount for the players. It shouldn't be some amount which is just disrespectful. The problem is, see, we have already given Mavropanos and Guendouzi on with those options. So clubs somehow feel that, I don't know whether they feel that Arsenal is very easy to although the Arsenal are standing their ground against Roma, for instance, or maybe in some other deals. But how easy is it going to be? Are they going to be just pushovers, or what is it going to be? It remains to be seen. I would prefer if Arsenal are way more firm and negotiate better deals with these teams.
Sounds good. And on that note, let's wrap up for the day. So,
Yeah. Sure.
guys, if you have come this far, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let us know what we are doing good. Let us know what we are not doing good. Our Twitter handles are right there in the bottom left corner of the screen. We are extremely active on Twitter, and the channel is back to the nets. And on that note, we will see you guys soon. Final words, Elroy.
Now, preseason begins now, so we go back to enough. We are done with the club football. I mean, the international football, and now it's back to Arsenal signings, meltdowns. All of that is back. That is
Transfer
coming home.
window transfer window is coming
Yeah,
home again.
yeah,
All right. On
yeah,
that note, thank you, Elroy. We
yeah.
will talk
Thanks, Gail.
soon.